What about the degree to which the market is monopolized, though? That is something that your company has lobbied, for years.
Rogers, which is one of Canada's big three telecom giants, went completely offline on Friday, and for many into the weekend, impacting roughly 1/3 of Canadians, knocking out television, internet, cell phone, and landline service, including 911, also impacting debit transactions at many businesses, impacting their ability to do business, and even impacted the ArriveCAN app for many trying to access that while entering Canada, which they need to be able to complete to actually enter the country. Now, this raised the obvious question. Should we really be relying on three major companies for all of our telecommunications? Rogers, Bell, and TELUS. The obvious answer is no. And in this video, I will get to the potential solution here. I will also show you this amazing clip from CBC News. So this question about this oligopoly, or increasing into a monopoly in terms of Rogers and a recent merger they were trying to complete here. I will get to this question being raised to to a Rogers executive on CBC News. And the response is just amazing. I will also get to the embarrassing response from the Liberal government. I will discuss if the Rogers explanation for this outage makes any sense. I will also discuss, as I hinted at, the real solution to this problem, and I will also reveal something about myself at the end of this video that is related to this that you may not know, but you may find amusing. All right, so let's first, before I get to the good clip, let me first play the response from Rogers about why, according to them, this happened.
In a statement, Rogers said, quote, "We now believe we've narrowed the cause to a network system failure following a maintenance update in our core network, which caused some of our routers to malfunction early Friday morning." It said, "We disconnected the specific equipment and redirected traffic, which allowed our network and services to come back online over time as we managed traffic volumes returning to normal levels." But the company's proposal to now buy Shaw Communications, it's prompting questions about just how much power the big three telecom companies wield and how much incentive there is to even prevent this from happening again.
This is the nightmare scenario where too few companies have too great of a level of control over our online digital destiny. And so this is exactly what the Competition Bureau has been warning us about.
A company like Rogers, I think we were reminded yesterday, is effectively too big to fail.
All right, so I will get to that question shortly, and I will show you the amazing interview clip from CBC News in a minute here. But first, I just want to explore this idea of the explanation for the Rogers outage, that it was just some malfunction, and that's why 1/3 of the country went completely down. Look, I'm not an expert in this field, so I wouldn't know any better, but Dean Blundell spoke to three different sources that claim there is no way the Rogers outage was an update issue, pointing to the idea that their sources pointing to the idea that it's more than likely a cyber attack. So going on to explain here from a Cloudflare expert. So several Cloudflare experts contacted them. One saying, for anyone doubting the cyber attack premise, all the services that were down don't run on the same network, i.e. there is no magic box that can break to cause what happened. For example, the network you and I used to play Golf Clash and scroll Twitter on is not the same network Interact uses to process transactions. Interact would have what's known as 5 nines of availability. They don't go down because of a bad update or a faulty piece of hardware. There is so much redundancy built in, there isn't a single point of failure in the network. Going on to say here, if something non-technical like a tree falling and taking out a line, they're able to relatively quickly, see relatively quickly exactly who was impacted. The fact that they didn't know the impact of the outage for the first 4 to 5 hours is unfathomable. So, and then he goes on to more sources here. So this explanation apparently doesn't make any sense. Again, I don't know. Maybe Rogers' explanation is legit. I don't know. But based on these sources, there isn't a single point of failure that could have taken down, this entire network across television, internet, cell phone, landline, 911, debit transactions. So just something worth thinking about. But this is where we get to this idea of, should all this power really be concentrated in the hands of just three giant companies? So this question was posed to a Rogers Help executive, Kye Prigg, by Vassy Kapelos on CBC News. And check out the reaction.
Your company is pitching a merger with Shaw that would further monopolize the market. How much responsibility does your company bear for the sheer number of Canadians who are affected by this?
I can't get into discussions on the merger with Shaw. We're so focused on recovering the situation here, so I couldn't possibly comment on that.
What about the degree to which the market is monopolized, though? That is something that your company has lobbied, for years.
I can't talk about the monopolization in Canada right now. I'm focused on the recovery efforts, as you can imagine, right? So you're keeping me from the incident room. So
yes, okay. I do understand that, sir. I'm just asking on behalf of Canadians. Thank you.
So a lawyer for Rogers interjected to end the interview. This really shows you how sensitive they are about this question. Now, look, some are arguing, well, he's a Rogers Help executive. He isn't necessarily in the business dealings of Rogers. He isn't necessarily the person to best speak on this. But I would argue he actually is the best person to speak on this, because he intimately understands that having one company control so much, have so much power, he understands this is not good for the end consumer. He understands that. But of course, he wants to keep his job, so he's not going to admit that's the problem. He's not going to admit, yeah, obviously this merger should not go through. Obviously, 3 companies shouldn't control all of telecommunications in Canada. But, he's in a position here where he's not really going to be able to answer the question without losing his job. And that's why you have the lawyer step in and interject before he maybe says something that is going to hurt the company. Now, this gets to this deal going on, which you're going to laugh in a second here, because the Rogers-Shaw deal was greenlit by the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, the CRTC, in March for the transfer of broadcasting licenses. However, the merger still awaits approval from the Competition Bureau and the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. So the CRTC greenlit this deal. CRTC greenlit it. Check out what happened, what the CRTC tweeted out on Friday. Please note that our phone lines are affected by the Rogers network outage. Our website is still available. The regulating body that agreed to greenlight this deal, this merger, being directly impacted by the fact that they have been unwilling to properly regulate this industry. Just chef's kiss. Perfect. Now, let me get to the response here from the Liberal government on Friday. Also embarrassing. So here you have Greg Fergus, the parliamentary secretary for the Prime Minister. Check out this reaction to the idea of Rogers and the other 2 companies having so much power.
I want to talk to you about something that NDP leader Jagmeet Singh tweeted today, because it's not just a criticism of the telecoms, it's a criticism, frankly, of your government. He says that the outage highlights the dangers of a monopolized industry and says that these are, quote, the consequences of a Liberal government that is fixated on protecting the profits of telecom giants. The Liberals have previously promised to improve telecommunication service in this country by increasing competition. So what does your government have to show on that front at this point?
Look, the government has always been taking a look at the allocation of spectrum, which is what these companies use. We want to make sure that Canada has a more competitive market. We want to make sure that Canada has a more affordable market so that Canadians can get access to data and mobile services as cheaply as they are in other countries. And we also, certainly today raises it, we want to make sure that it's a reliable network. So I don't think this is a time for, frankly, a political drive-by here. This is really a time
but is he wrong?
Making sure that we have it.
I mean, you're saying it's a drive-by, but is he wrong that there's not too much concentration, given we don't even know how many millions of people are without service? Does that not kind of prove the point that there is too much concentration right now?
Well, we also believe that there's too much concentration, and this is the reason why when we're allocating spectrum, we want to make sure that we have a more competitive market, which means more new entrants coming into the system.
Not a time for a political drive-by? Really? This is inherently a political issue. Having this much power in the hands of 3 major companies is clearly a big part of the problem. But of course, the Liberal government, Conservative Party, intertwined with big business. They don't want to criticize this because these are their buddies. So you have here a fantastic point by NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, but even he and the NDP don't get to the potential solution here, and that is to nationalize the industry. So this is a piece by Paris Marx from back in 2020, near the beginning of the pandemic, that I'm going to quote a bit from here. But at the very least, a public option. Have the ability or offer some competition here in way of the public space to these three big giants, at the very least to try and bring down costs. Because we know how expensive, actually, maybe you don't know, Canada's wireless price is down, still higher than most G7 countries. So Canadians pay some of the highest prices within the G7. And part of the problem, of course, is having all of this power in the concentration of, a few hands. So Marx goes on to write here, the telecom giants have established an oligopoly that allows them to make huge profits from what should be a public service. Bell made more than $3 billion in profit in 2019, and Rogers made more than $2 billion, while emphasizing having returned $1.7 billion to shareholders through dividend payments and share repurchases, up nearly 70%. These companies shouldn't get away with charging such high prices to extract massive profits from a service Canadians depend on. Instead, the government should use this period of high demand and increased reliance on these companies' services to do what they should have done long ago: nationalize the telecom companies and run the service in the public interest. Public internet utilities are already being built in the US, something Bernie Sanders wants to massively expand, and communities that already have them find the service is not only faster, but significantly cheaper than what the private telecom oligopoly provides, to the degree that even Republican politicians have had to praise them. As writer Evan Malgrim observed in Dissent magazine, quote, when people experience the benefits of a public network in their immediate lives, they see it more as an issue of common sense than one of partisan politics. Public internet is cheaper because it doesn't have to deliver a profit for shareholders, and because by building a single public network instead of overlapping private networks, customers aren't paying multiple times for redundant service. So, all great points here. And again, I'll link to this below the video. Read through it. If you're not convinced, read through the piece and see what you think. At least expose yourself to this idea of nationalizing the industry, or again, even just a public option, because something has to be done here. You simply can't have these major companies continue to eat up all the competition and then raise prices and have, an outage like what happened on Friday just impact 1/3 of the country. Now, quickly here, I'm going to end on what I teased earlier, and this is something that you may not know about me. Long before I started doing YouTube videos, while I was at a desk job at work, I started this little account here called Rogers No Help. It was a parody of Rogers Helps, as a way to kind of get out my frustration with Rogers as a Rogers customer at the time. And HuffPost actually did a story on it because Rogers got Twitter to suspend my account because they were claiming I was impersonating them. And to be fair, I kind of was. But it was, I thought it was clearly a joke, as you can see. So what I would do is I would respond to people asking Rogers for help. Like this person, this is back before quote tweets even existed. So this person tweeted out, why is Rogers.com loading so slow? And I reacted saying, we suggest switching to Bell for browsing the Rogers website. So, stupid things like that. And I even went on, if you go check the page now, like not many followers. So it was weird that Rogers cared at all about this. But I don't know, I got some funny tweets here. Like this one, Rogers tip, experiencing dropped calls, talk to your friend in person. So you can go through that account, check out some of those tweets. Unfortunately, I forgot the password to this account, so I can't, make any new tweets on this page here. But man, something has to be done about the amount of power that these three companies have, and I think nationalizing the industry, or at least having a public option, seems to be an obvious route.